Jacob stole his destiny with a bowl of soup and wrestled God in one night. A liar, a thief, a man who deceived his blind father and fled for his life. His name literally meant deceiver. But by sunrise, everything changed. New name, new identity, and a limp he'd carry forever. Ever feel like your past disqualifies you from anything good? Ever done something you can't undo? Ever wonder if you're too broken, too flawed, too far gone for God to use you? Then Jacob's story is for you. Because what happened in one night changed not just his name, but the entire trajectory of human history. From deceiver to Israel, from con artist to father of a nation. Type Israel in the comments right now. Israel. If you've ever needed a new name, a new start, a new chance, type Israel, because you're about to see how God specializes in taking broken people and making them into something they never could have become on their own. In the next 27 minutes, you'll discover 3 things. First, how a man who manipulated everyone ended up being manipulated by God into his true purpose. Second, what one night of wrestling with God can accomplish that decades of running from him never could. And third, why your past failures might actually be preparing you for your future calling. Hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't. Share this with someone who needs to hear that transformation isn't just possible, it's what God does best. Now let's go back to before Jacob was even born, because this story starts with a war. Before Jacob ever took his first breath, there was a battle. Not outside, inside. In his mother's womb, Rebecca had waited 20 years for this pregnancy. 20 years of empty arms while other women nursed their babies. 20 years of silence when she longed to hear a child's laughter. 20 years of wondering if God remembered her at all. Then finally, conception. But not peace. War. The babies inside her fought so violently, she thought she might die. In desperation, she went to inquire of the Lord, and God's answer wasn't comfort. It was prophecy. 2 nations are in your womb. 2 peoples will separate from your body. One will be stronger than the other, and the older will serve the younger. Impossible. In that world, the firstborn was everything. The firstborn inherited. The firstborn led. The firstborn carried the covenant promises from Abraham. But God was about to flip the script. Delivery day came. The first twin emerged red and hairy, wild-looking. They named him Esau, but immediately behind him, gripping his brother's heel with a tiny fist, came the second. They called him Jacob, heel grabber, but everyone knew the real meaning. Deceiver. The one who trips you from behind. From his very first moment, Jacob was fighting for position, grasping, refusing to accept second place, and he'd spend the next several decades living up to that name. The brothers grew into opposites. Esau became a hunter, rough, impulsive, living for the thrill of the kill. He embodied everything their culture valued in masculinity. Jacob stayed in the tents, quiet, thoughtful. Where Esau acted, Jacob calculated. Where Esau charged ahead, Jacob waited for his moment. And their parents? They took sides. Isaac loved Esau, loved the wild game he brought, loved the adventure he represented. But Rebekah loved Jacob. She remembered the prophecy. She knew which son was destined for greatness. This house was a powder keg, and the explosion came over a meal. Esau burst in from the fields, exhausted and ravenous. The smell of Jacob's lentil stew filled the tent. Rich, earthy, irresistible. Give me some of that red stuff. I'm starving to death. Jacob looked up, saw his opening. His voice was measured, deliberate. First, sell me your birthright. The birthright, the family leadership, the double inheritance, the spiritual authority to carry Abraham's covenant forward. Esau laughed bitterly. Look, I'm about to die here. What good's a birthright to a corpse? He wasn't dying. He was hungry. But in that moment, Esau revealed his soul. He valued the immediate over the eternal, the bowl in front of him over the blessing of generations. Swear it, Jacob pressed, and Esau swore, sold his birthright for soup. Scripture's judgment is devastating. Thus Esau despised his birthright. But Jacob wasn't satisfied. He had the birthright. Now he wanted the blessing, and he was willing to commit the unthinkable to get it. Years passed. Isaac grew old. His eyes failed until he could barely see shadows. Sensing death approaching, he called Esau. "Take your bow. Hunt game. Prepare the food I love, so I can give you my blessing before I die." The blessing. Not just kind words. In that world, a father's blessing was prophetic, powerful, irreversible. Once spoken, it could never be recalled. Esau grabbed his bow and headed out, anticipation flooding his chest. But someone else had been listening. Rebekah pulled Jacob aside, voice urgent. "I heard your father. He's about to bless Esau. Listen carefully. Do exactly what I say." Her plan was audacious and morally devastating. Kill 2 goats. Prepare them Isaac's way. Dress Jacob in Esau's clothes. Put goat skins on his smooth arms. Send him in to steal his brother's blessing. Jacob hesitated, but not because it was wrong. What if father touches me? I'll look like I'm mocking him. He'll curse me instead of blessing me. Let any curse fall on me, Rebekah said. Just do it. So the deception began. Rebekah slaughtered the goats. Blood on her hands, literally and figuratively. She wrapped the hairy skins around Jacob's arms and neck, dressed him in Esau's clothes, still smelling of earth and sweat. Jacob took the food, entered his father's dim tent. "Father?" "Yes." "Who is it?" The first lie came easily. "I am Esau, your firstborn. I've done as you asked. Sit up and eat so you can bless me." Isaac was suspicious. "How did you find game so quickly?" Now Jacob committed his most audacious move. He invoked God to cover his deception. "The Lord your God gave me success." Still unconvinced, Isaac reached out trembling hands. "Come closer. Let me touch you to know if you're really my son, Esau." Time stopped. Jacob stepped forward. His father's fingers closed around his arm, feeling the rough goatskin. The voice is Jacob's voice, but the hands are Esau's hands. A pause. Unbearable tension. Then Isaac pulled him close, smelled Esau's clothes, and spoke words that would echo through history. "May God give you heaven's dew and earth's richness, abundance of grain and wine. May nations serve you and peoples bow down. Be Lord over your brothers. May those who curse you be cursed, and those who bless you be blessed." It was done. Irreversible. Stolen. Jacob barely made it out before Esau returned, game in hand, ready to receive his blessing. "Rise, father. Eat my game so you can bless me." Isaac trembled. "Who are you?" "I am your son, your firstborn, Esau." Isaac began to shake violently. "Who was it then? Who brought me game? I ate it all and blessed him, and he will be blessed." The truth crashed over Esau like a wave. He released a scream, raw, primal, a sound of anguish that tore from his soul. "Bless me too, father, bless me too." But there was no blessing left. Isaac had already given it away. To the wrong son, or the right son, depending on how you looked at it. Esau's grief turned to rage. "He's deceived me twice. He took my birthright, and now he's taken my blessing. Haven't you saved anything for me?" Isaac could only offer scraps. "You'll live by the sword and serve your brother. But when you grow restless, you'll throw his yoke off." Esau made a vow that day. "As soon as father dies, I'm killing Jacob." But you can't run from God forever, even when you're running for your life. Rebekah heard about Esau's death threat, told Jacob to run. "Go to my brother Laban in Haran. Stay until Esau's fury cools." She said it would be a short visit. It would be 20 years. Jacob fled with nothing. No servants, no wealth, just the clothes on his back and the stolen blessing in his heart. As night fell, exhausted and alone, he found a place to sleep, used a stone for a pillow. The ground was hard, the night was cold, and Jacob, the deceiver, who had always been so good at manipulating circumstances, had no control over anything anymore. He fell asleep. And God showed up. In the dream, a stairway appeared, reaching from earth to heaven, angels ascending and descending, and at the top, the Lord himself. God spoke, but not words of condemnation. Not, "You're a liar and a thief." Instead, this, "I am the Lord, the God of your grandfather Abraham and your father Isaac. This land you're lying on, I'm giving it to you and your descendants. Your offspring will be like the dust of the earth, spreading everywhere. All peoples on earth will be blessed through you. I am with you. I will watch over you wherever you go, and I will bring you back to this land. I will not leave you until I've done what I promised." Jacob woke up terrified. Surely the Lord is in this place, and I didn't know it. This is the gate of heaven. He took the stone he'd used as a pillow, set it upright, poured oil on it, named the place Bethel, house of God. Then he made a vow. If God will be with me and watch over me on this journey, if he gives me food and clothes and brings me back safely to my father's house, then the Lord will be my God. Notice something? Even here, Jacob was bargaining, even with God. If you do this, then I'll do that. Some things don't change overnight. Jacob continued to Haran, found his uncle Laban's household, and immediately fell for Laban's younger daughter, Rachel. She was beautiful. And Jacob, for the first time in his life, was willing to work honestly for something he wanted. "I'll work 7 years for Rachel," he told Laban. Laban agreed. "Better to give her to you than to someone else." 7 years Jacob worked, and scripture says they seemed like only a few days because of his love for her. The wedding day arrived. The celebration lasted all day. Then, as was customary, the veiled bride was brought to Jacob in darkness. Morning came. Jacob woke up, looked at his wife, and it wasn't Rachel. It was Leah, the older sister. The deceiver had been deceived. Jacob exploded. "What have you done? I worked for Rachel. Why have you tricked me?" Laban's answer was calm, almost amused. "It's not our custom to give the younger before the firstborn." The words must have hit Jacob like a fist. The younger before the firstborn. The exact order he'd disrupted in his own family. The very thing that set his whole life on this course. God was teaching Jacob something. Through Laban's deception, through 20 years of getting a taste of his own medicine, God was showing him what he'd done to others. "Finish the wedding week with Leah," Laban said. "Then I'll give you Rachel, too, for another 7 years of work." So Jacob worked another 7 years, got Rachel, but also got 4 women, Leah, Rachel, and their 2 servants, who competed for his attention and gave him 12 sons, who would become the 12 tribes of Israel. 20 years with Laban, 20 years of being manipulated and used, 20 years of having his wages changed 10 times, 20 years of reaping what he'd sown. But through it all, God blessed him. His flocks multiplied. His wealth grew, not because he deserved, but because God had made a promise. And God keeps his promises, even when we don't deserve them. Finally, God said, "It's time. Go back to the land of your fathers, back to Canaan, to Esau, to the brother who'd vowed to kill him." And then came the night that changed everything. Jacob sent messengers ahead to Esau. "Tell him I'm coming. Tell him I have livestock and servant. Tell him I hope to find favor in his eyes." The messengers returned with news that stopped Jacob's heart. "Esau is coming to meet you with 400 men, 400 armed men. That's not a welcome party. That's an army." Terror gripped Jacob. All the years of running, all the manipulation, all the deception, it was catching up. He divided his camp, sent gifts ahead, hundreds of goats, sheep, camels, cattle, hoping to appease Esau's rage. Night fell. Jacob sent his family and possessions across the Jabbok River and stayed behind, alone. That's when it happened. Someone appeared in the darkness and attacked him. They wrestled all night, neither gaining advantage, back and forth, grappling, struggling. Jacob fighting with everything he had. As dawn approached, the figure said, "Let me go." But Jacob held on. "I won't let you go unless you bless me. What's your name?" And here, in this moment, Jacob spoke the truth about himself for the first time in his life. Jacob, deceiver, heel grabber, the name that defined his shame. Your name will no longer be Jacob. It will be Israel, one who struggles with God, because you have struggled with God and with humans and have overcome." Then the figure struck Jacob's hip socket, dislocated it. Jacob would walk with a limp for the rest of his life, a permanent reminder of this night. "Please tell me your name," Jacob asked. "Why do you ask my name?" And then he blessed him. As the sun rose, Jacob realized he'd been wrestling with God himself. "I saw God face to face, and yet my life was spared." He named the place Peniel, face of God. The sun rose on a different man, not Jacob the deceiver, Israel, the overcomer, not walking in strength, but limping, not relying on his own cleverness, but leaning on God. That limp? That wasn't weakness. That was the mark of transformation. Every step for the rest of his life would remind him, "I wrestled with God and survived. I held on until he blessed me. I am not who I used to be." Jacob, now Israel, crossed the Jabbok, saw Esau approaching with 400 men, and instead of scheming or running, he walked forward, bowed 7 times. Esau ran to him, not with a sword, with open arms, threw his arms around his brother's neck, kissed him, and they both wept. "Who are all these people with you?" Esau asked, looking at Jacob's family. "The children God has graciously given your servant." "And what about all those flocks you sent ahead?" "A gift. To find favor in your eyes, my lord." Esau smiled. "I already have plenty, my brother. Keep what you have." But Jacob insisted, "Please, if I've found favor in your eyes, accept this gift. For to see your face is like seeing the face of God." Did you catch that? Jacob had just seen God's face at Peniel, and now, looking at his brother, the brother he'd wronged, he saw God's face again, in forgiveness, in reconciliation, in grace he didn't deserve. The man who spent his life grasping finally learned to receive. The man who spent his life running finally came home. The man who spent his life deceiving finally walked in truth. Israel, the father of a nation, not because he earned it, but because God wrestled him into it. So what does this mean for you today? Maybe you're watching this and you see yourself in Jacob. Maybe you've cut corners, hurt people, made choices that haunt you at 3 a.m. Media before. Maybe you're running from something right now. A broken relationship, a mistake, a version of yourself you wish didn't exist. Here's what Jacob's story teaches. God doesn't wait for you to be perfect before he pursues you. He met Jacob at Bethel when Jacob was still a fugitive thief. He wrestled with Jacob at Peniel when Jacob was still scheming. He blessed Jacob not because Jacob deserved it, but because that's who God is. The question isn't whether you're good enough. You're not. Jacob wasn't. Neither am I. The question is, will you stop running and let God wrestle with you? Because transformation doesn't come from trying harder. It comes from holding on, wounded, broken, honest about who you really are, and refusing to let go until he blesses you. You might walk away with a limp. Jacob did. But you'll also walk away with a new name, a new identity, a new future. Not deceiver, not failure, not the one who messed up, but child of God, overcomer. One who struggled with God and prevailed. That's the offer right now. Type Israel one more time. If something stirred in you today, if you feel like God's been wrestling with you, waiting for you to stop running and hold on, you can pray right now, in your car, in your room. Doesn't have to be eloquent. Jacob's most powerful prayer was just his name, an admission of who he really was. Maybe your prayer is simply this: God, I'm tired of running. I'm tired of pretending. Here's who I really am, and I'm not letting go until you bless me. That's enough. That's the beginning. If you prayed that, drop a comment. Let me know. I want to celebrate with you. Remember when I asked you to type Israel? If you've ever felt your past disqualifies you from God's purpose, now you know the truth. Jacob was a liar, a thief, a manipulator, and God transformed him into the father of a nation. If God could do that with Jacob, what might he do with you? Share this with someone who needs to hear that transformation is possible. Hit that like button, subscribe, turn on notifications, because Jacob's story continues. His son Joseph will face Egypt's prisons and palaces. And that story is just as powerful. Until next time, remember, just as God wrestled Jacob into his destiny, he wants to wrestle you into yours.